Mr. Bob Brim, Western Washington University class of 1970, is your commencement speaker. Bob Brim became fascinated with computers as a teenager. When he came to Western, he took every computing course he could find. But this was long before students could major in computer science. Mr. Brim then graduated with a degree in physics and mathematics. Right after graduation, Mr. Brim went to work at the Naval Undersea Center, a Navy research facility in Pasadena, California. He also earned a Master's of Science in Electronic Engineering Technology at UCLA. After returning to Whatcom County and his family's successful tractor dealership, he developed software for tractor dealerships to automate their businesses. In 1980, Mr. Brim launched Dealer Information Systems, DIS, which soon caught the attention of the Ford Tractor Division and other major companies. For 3 years in a row, DIS Corporation was included in the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies. Mr. Brim also kept intellectually growing, earning a master's degree of business administration from the University of Washington. Today, his employees now share ownership of the company, which remains a leader in its field with more than 2,300 heavy equipment dealerships in North America using DIS software. Mr. Brim also works as a consultant to small and emerging businesses in China, in Vietnam, Canada, and the United States. He serves on the board of directors of the Mount Baker Theater and is chairman of the Western College of Sciences and Technology Advisory Council. He particularly enjoys working with Western students and recently funded a group project of industrial design students devising new uses for old shipping containers. Please welcome your commencement speaker, Mr. Bob Brim.
Congratulations, graduates. You're here today with family and friends to celebrate a milestone in your education, and I am honored to be a part of it. 43 years ago, I was in the same place as you, with a BA degree in math and physics from this very institution. Since that day, I've had 3 interesting and rewarding careers. You would expect me to say that my education at Western was responsible for any success I might have achieved in those careers. I believe it was more than that. My education here most likely saved my life. You see, I graduated in 1970, only a few short months after the lottery was instituted to fill draft quotas for the Vietnam War. Education deferments were canceled at the same time. My birthday was chosen in the lottery 63rd, and the selective service passed my number on the 3rd day. And so I was ordered to report to the induction center in Seattle for physical and tests. And in spite of the fact that I told the examiner that I had flat feet, I was passed. I was ordered to report to basic training after I graduated. That spring, before I was drafted, I was offered a job at the Naval Undersea Center in Pasadena. NUC was a Navy institution tasked with research and development for most everything that the Navy did underwater. When I received my draft notice, I wrote NUC to let them know that it looked like the Army had exercised their priority right for my service. The Navy contacted the Selective Service Administration in Washington, D.C., and said that the nation needed physicists. And because of the quality of education here at Western, they had offered jobs to 5 in my graduating class, me being one. DC decided to leave it up to our local draft boards as to where we would go. I have to admit that I skipped graduation here at Western on that sunny day, June 12th, 43 years ago. You see, I married my lovely wife that same day. And she's here in the audience today. Priorities, what can I say? We were in kind of a hurry because it looked like I was going to be going off to war on July 5th, only a few short weeks after that. And the day was chosen because it was my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and they thought it would be kind of cool if their oldest grandson would get married on the same day that they had been married. Well, that day turned out to be very lucky for me. And whether you believe in luck or providence, it was a very lucky day. And not only because of the 43 happy years that I've spent with Gwen, but also that night my draft board met and decided to send me to the Navy. So I spent 4 years in Pasadena and San Diego working for the Navy lab instead of 2 years in Vietnam, where so many young men didn't return. You see, this graduation ceremony has special significance for me as well. I finally get to attend one here at Western. But that is not why I was asked to speak today. I've been tasked with sharing with you some wisdom you can use as you go forward in your chosen careers. I mentioned that I've had 3 very different careers since I left Western. I've been fortunate that each was my choice, and I've enjoyed them all to the point that I can hardly call them work. I assume that I was asked to speak today because I must have learned something in those careers that I could share, something useful. Unfortunately, much of what I've learned in the past has been obsoleted in recent years. You see, the world I was educated in is not the same as the world today. And even the world that I worked in for the last 40-some years, it was different. Technologies have changed the world so it is barely recognizable by people of my generation. We couldn't have imagined the world that we live in today even 15 years ago. The world used to be a big place. You might even say that the edge of a person's world was the distance that he had traveled. And it wasn't uncommon when I grew up that people never traveled outside of the state. However, through the last century, with advances in travel, the world began to shrink. The time it takes to get anywhere in the world has gone from months to hours today. And in the last 10 years, communication advances has reduced that time for virtual travel to seconds. As an example, a year ago, I was chatting with a friend of mine who was attending classes at the University of Bournemouth in England, and she was describing her walk to class. So I located the street on Google Map and walked along with her, viewing the houses and businesses on my computer screen as she described what she saw. Last month, I was in Hanoi, and I was on a conference call back to the US, and one of the participants asked what hotel I was staying at. And so I told him, and he located it on a satellite image, and we talked about the beauty of the area for a few minutes. You all know this stuff. Most of you have grown up with this. Often our neighbors 8,000 miles away are closer than the ones that live physically next door. Social media, instant messaging, Skype, cell phones, all these tools have changed the way the world works. And to be successful in this new world, you have to understand how it works. It is likely that most, if not all of you, at some time in your life will work for a company or an agency that has international reach. It is virtually impossible to avoid. Our food, our clothes, almost everything we use comes from every other country in the world. And what we produce here goes to every other country in the world. So here's my advice in one word: travel. Travel as often as you can and to as many places as you can. You see, travel is mind expanding. I don't know anybody that isn't changed by the experience. The British have a tradition they call the gap year. Some of you may know of this. Between graduation and starting a career, young people go off to experience the world. In my travels, I've met young men and women from South America, Australia, England, frankly, many other countries that are out on their gap year. This probably isn't good news for the parents that might be asked to participate financially, but I think it is a brilliant idea. Western has prepared you with the foundation you need to be successful in your chosen field. Traveling, experiencing the world, will teach you how to leverage that education. How can you recognize an opportunity if you're not there to see it? How can you know a need if you're not there to experience it? Whether your bent is social responsibility or commercial gain, what you learn from interacting with people away from the familiar broadens your view and fills in the gaps of your experience. There is no substitute for travel. Reading about another's experience is good as a validation for your own perception, but that's about it. Seeing the pictures is like looking at the world through binoculars. There's no depth, no perspective, no detail, no life. These tools are good for background, but little else. And always remember that what is written about the way things are today is dated. By the time you read it, the world has changed. I've been to many countries in the last 10 years, advanced countries, developing, struggling to develop. And what I've noticed is the world is being westernized. There is very little left of the cultures that we read about in books. TV and contact has convinced people everywhere that they should have what we enjoy. Take traditional dress, for example. When I was in India a few years back, I noticed that the older generation still wore the traditional dress, but none of the young people did. All the billboards, all of the TV shows, the advertisements showed celebrities in Western dress. Last time I was there, I saw very little of the traditional dress anywhere. When I visited Vietnam in 2003, women wore the traditional ao dai everywhere. High school girls were required to wear it, and you saw thousands of young girls riding their bicycles to school with their white ao dais. Today, you only see it in tourist hotels and restaurants. Today, in Japan, when I was there last, women that wore a traditional kimono in public were given free rides on public transportation. Even with that incentive, it was rare to see. The westernization of cultures everywhere is not a bad thing. It is simply a sign of our shrinking world and the effects of current technology. Cultures naturally change. Take ours, for example. Much of what my generation grew up with is now only seen in museums. Change spawns opportunity, and the westernization of the world has created tremendous opportunities for those that will go out there and discover it. I began consulting with a young American living in China back in 2005. And he had noticed that there were no Christmas tree lots in Beijing. There were over 2,000 expatriate families in Beijing at the time, and they were mostly Western countries. So he opened a Christmas tree lot. He couldn't keep up with the demand. He was cutting trees as fast as he could, and he couldn't keep up. Hotels, embassies, Western businesses, they all wanted Christmas trees. So he started importing container loads of trees from Norway to meet the demand. To keep busy in the summer, he added barbecues and air cleaners. His business has grown to include distribution sites all over China, and today he's a multimillionaire. This story makes one final point. Travel is most effective, most enlightening when you engage with people. Whether you are on tour or backpacking, take time to talk to people. Talk to fellow travelers about their perception, what they have seen, and what they have learned, and most important, talk to the natives. Live with them if possible. That is where you learn the most. You will make lifelong friendships. You will see needs that can be filled by your talents, your interests, your education. Your life will be enriched for it. You will be more valuable to your employers and to society. I hope to see you out there. If you recognize me someplace when you're out exploring some remote part of the world, say hello and tell me what you have learned. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Bob.